Welcome to the tutorial for sewing a rouleau loop. This one is just one single button loop. You want some fabric cut on the bias grain. You can see on the right hand side that was my selvage. I'm just going to trim that away, and you cut it at 45 degrees or roughly that to the selvage, and you get a nice stretch in the grain of the fabric. Now this is double muslin, so I am just snipping the little connecting threads between it so that I can use just one layer. It doesn't work so well with thicker fabrics, so I just want a thin layer of fabric for this. So there you go, you can see it stretches a little bit. I'm going to fold it in half and stitch it quite close to the edge, about 2-3 millimeters away from that fold. And if you pull it gently as you do it, not hard, but just so that it's got a little bit of stretch in there. There we go. I usually use a smaller stitch for that too. So there you go. You can see I've stitched about 3 millimeters from the folded edge. I'm going to trim it so that the seam allowance is the same width. It won't fray because it's on the bias. Now we pop the little rouleau turner up there. There's a little hooky bit there. Put that metal bit through, close the loop and pull gently, rolling the outside over the inside. And there you go. It's just a tiny piece, but we only need a little piece for a loop. So this is the opening that I've got in my top. It's the right side out. You can see I've marked the seam allowance here with some wax. There's my button, there's my little loop. I'm going to place it right up to that seam allowance and give it a pin so it's butted up against the edge. That's where I'm going to stitch it along that other line. Now I'm going to lay my button so that that is butted up against that seam allowance line. And then I fold my rouleau over the top of it so that I know the button will fit inside it. I just slide it out, pop another pin in, and I'm going to stitch along the stitch line, the seam allowance line, to hold that in place. If you don't like stitching over pins, which some people don't, then just pop a tack in there or something. But again, I use a small stitch and back tack over it so it's nice and secure. And then just trim the edges away. So there you go, you've got your tiny little loop there, tiny little button, so it's a little bit fiddly, but because it's got a little bit of give in it, it will pop through that loop nicely. There we go. So next I'm going to pop my facing on around the neckline of my top, and it will be stitched along that stitch line that I marked in the wax. So that loop should stay exactly the same size, which we know is correct. So I'm going to clip these corners off and trim it down a little bit, as this double muslin or double gauze is quite thick. And there we go, when we pull it through you can see there's your perfect little loop at the top. Now we just need to match these up. They're nice and equal, and then I pop my needle or a pin through the little hole, the end of the loop, to mark where my button goes. And here I'm just going to start my stitching for where my button goes. Quickly stitch it through by hand. I know lots of people like to use their sewing machines, but I quite like a bit of hand sew. Finish it off, secure it, pop it through, wind it round the button threads, stitch through again and trim your cotton off. There we are, there's our loop and button. Nice little detail. Enjoy!